Content warning. This episode includes discussions of sexual assault and harassment and suicide. Listener discretion is advised. She joined the army to serve her country, but when she arrived on one of the nation's largest bases, the new recruit soon realized things weren't what she expected. When her family suddenly lost contact with her, they were forced to face off against the entire military system itself. This week's episode is The Disappearance of Vanessa Guillén, Part 1. Sinisterhood.
Have you ever been to Fort Hood?
I've not. I've been to Killeen, Texas I was driving down to Austin and I made a very out of the way stop because there's a drive-through daiquiri stand there.
I have been to a graduation at Fort Hood.
Classier than the reason why I went to Killeen to get a frozen Beetlejuice was what it was called. How was the graduation?
Ooh,
I imagine it was
first though, what was in that Beetlejuice?
You don't.
You said it 3 times that you black out.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you drink anything from a drive-through daiquiri stand, you don't ask any questions about what was in it.
You kind of just take what you can get.
Absolutely, but I imagine a military graduation is very regal and honorable.
Yes. Now that I think about it, I believe it was friends and family weekend. I don't remember if it was perhaps it was. No, I feel like we also saw a graduation happen. We were young though. I mean, freshly out of high school, a friend of ours joined the army. Nice. So we went there. That would have been in 97.
Yeah.
You know, I do remember walking over stupidly with my friends, a giant like seal in the courtyard, and a bunch of young army guys being like, "Get off the seal!" Because you're not supposed to walk on certain parts. They were nice about it. I mean,
yeah, of course,
we're 18-year-old girls in dresses, and they haven't seen that in a long time. So they were, but it kind of maybe lends itself to how the culture was going on already. Oof. It's like, I mean, it was the 90s in general were a different time, but I do remember we rented a hotel room and our friend got to go off base for the night. We just had a big old party. So
you gotta rage. That's what you do when you're just out of high school, just out of college, like crazy parties in a hotel room. Definitely remember those. But
in Fort Hood, Texas, if only we'd known or Killeen, Texas, if only we'd known about the daiquiri place.
For real. But the idea of a military base this big is certainly daunting. It's basically like its own city. And as we're about to hear, the bigger something is, the more places there are for insidious things to be hiding. And Fort Hood had a lot of stuff. Not only it was hiding, as we are going to hear about the case that we're talking about today, but before that even too. And I think it was by design, kind of don't worry about it. That was just a one-off thing. It's just a one-off thing. And you're like, it's a lot of things that don't happen at other bases that are happening here.
It is upsetting that so much of this seems to go on in our neck of the woods. It's definitely systemic, and when I like to think of these things as cockroaches, when you see one, there's usually 10 others that you're not seeing. Like rarely is just one instance of harassment, sexual assault from a base. Rarely is it an anomaly.
Yeah, because you know what? If it was an anomaly, a huge deal is made, and it's like, we've got this one pervert, we've got to get him out. So, the statistics we'll share as the episode goes on are staggering, but the case that we're talking about at issue here intersects with that. You heard our interview last week with John Quinones, and we're going to offer our take on Vanessa's case. So as you're listening to this part 2, we're going to get more into the legal reform. So as you have questions about 2 different justice systems going on, right? Like as we discuss this, send them in. We want to hear your questions.
There really are 2 different justice systems. There's,
literally and legal,
but also even within our justice system, there's different justice systems. But then military justice system is another thing. That is another thing. Driving on that base, a bit scary because they are, if you go 1 mile over the speed limit, it's like, pull over. I mean, because they're just standing around, so they'll just yell at you to pull over. A friend of mine got pulled over she was very nervous about the whole thing. They let her go because we're like, we don't even know what we're doing.
We're idiots. Leave us alone. That'd be
We
me.
already
Like,
walked across the seal. We know we don't
like,
belong here.
It's the SEAL team. And you're like, not that SEAL team. They started calling us the SEAL team because we were creating havoc on base.
And they keep going, whenever we walk by, and we're like, please stop. We're leaving tomorrow, please.
We just literally wanted to visit our friend. Could you please? But I mean, you got to keep, and we'll discuss as we get into the prevalence of sexual abuse in the military. Like, there's rules for a reason. They're doing serious stuff on military bases to risk sounding like I'm understating it. But the policy is what keeps a lot of us safe and in line. And a breakdown of policy leads to a huge, huge mess. And that's also an understatement.
Well, before we jump into that, let's jump into some
brief announcements up top.
Brief announcements, yes.
Announcement.
Ding, ding, ding. I did the announcements in high school.
Man, that's fun. I never got to do
those. Junior and senior year, I did them.
Hell yeah.
It was fun. I got a talking to more than once, but
like, Christy, could we just please? You're like, hey everybody, it's DJ Christy Dubs. Like, it is not a morning drive time radio. Please stop.
I did treat it as one, as did my friends that also did the announcements with me. So
we did not do the announcements. I did the John Horn Campus News, and my friend and I had just seen Anchorman. So you can imagine what our news reporting and all of our special, we're going to go to our correspondent in the field, and it was all very Anchorman coded, original Anchorman coded.
Yes.
Man. Well, our announcements are not Anchorman. It's that you can watch us, much like an anchor on television. You can watch us on your screen anytime through Halloween. Season of the Witch is available right now. Stream it.
You can still watch the show through Halloween. And speaking of anchors...
Yes. Y'all better fucking buckle up, dude. We've been working on our show.
Buckle up and snap it in. That's the life vest.
Low-key. Snap in your life jacket. We're going to Crime Wave at Sea November 3rd through the 7th aboard Royal Caribbean's wonderful ship with Henry and Ed from Last Podcast Side Stories, with Dan and Linz from Scared to Death, and with you, fine friends who have bought your tickets. It's probably too late now to get yours, but we're going on it. So, I mean, unless you live in Fort Lauderdale, I just mean like travel logistics. Yeah. Maybe
who knows? Maybe they got a last minute deal. Who knows?
But until then, we've got a 2-parter on this one, because I know sometimes people want to know how many parts it is, but doing this one in 2.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get into it. Vanessa Guillén was born on September 30th, 1999 in Houston, Texas, to Gloria and Rogelio Guillén, both immigrants from Mexico who worked tirelessly to provide for their 6 children. The Guilléns raised their family in a close-knit Latino community where faith, family loyalty, and perseverance define daily life. Vanessa, the second youngest, grew up surrounded by the noise, laughter, and resilience of a large household. From an early age, Vanessa's determination stood out. Her mother later recalled that she had an independent streak and a deep-seated desire to prove herself capable of anything, traits that would come to define her both in school and the military. Vanessa attended Cesar Chavez High School in Houston, where she graduated in 2018, ranking in the top 15% of her class. Academically gifted and disciplined, she excelled in math and science. But it was her athleticism and grit that drew attention. She competed in track, cross-country, and soccer, often running long distances before and after practice. Coaches described her as fiercely competitive and someone who
always pushed herself a little more.
Outside of athletics, Vanessa was known for being talkative, playful, and her contagious laugh. For fun, she loved to get dressed up and go out dancing. Indeed, it was at a quinceañera that she met Juan Cruz, who would become her boyfriend and later fiancé. He said he was drawn to her
strength and kindness,
and that her laughter made him feel at home. Their connection grew over shared values of family and ambition, even as her focus increasingly turned toward her military future.
That's what they said. She was an athletic girl, but that also she was a girly girl, that while she was like the fastest one running and maybe ran super long distances or was lifting, like a lot of footage of her straight up just deadlifting weights. And I was like, man, I could not. I mean, maybe I could. Maybe if I was as determined as her. Yeah, if I could. Because we were just like huge barbells.
Yeah. I love those TikToks where women will set up their phone at a gym and then go and deadlift, and it catches all the just men and incredulous expressions in the background like, how could they possibly pick that up? It's like, one, we're in, what year is it? Two, because they train just as hard, if not
Mhm.
harder, and she was determined from a very young age. It's always impressive to me when people at such a young age already really kind of know what they are passionate about and the path they want to follow in life, how they feel like they could best make a difference.
Mhm, and I'm sure when you're the parent hearing that, you're just like, "Oh, no, kiddo,
Yeah.
like, you're not don't do that, kiddo."
But not that
But
one.
yeah, I mean, because you want her to literally be all you can be, right? Like, that's the army recruiting material, and so for kids growing up, she was born in '99, the early 2000s, you saw, like, we were all very, uh, thoughtful and respectful about our military service members and making sure we're honoring the troops in the post 9/11 kind of society. And especially, Houston is a large, near a lot of travel. A lot of
Mhm.
soldiers go in and out of like
Ports.
yeah, and the airport there too. So it's like you're seeing it around it, you're growing up around it, and it is an exalted profession. So it's not
Mhm.
surprising that, especially a kid, born right around 9/11, sees that as something to aspire to.
Yeah.
Sinisterhood will be right back. Helix Sleep is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences.
Oh, my sleep preference is to do it as much as possible. And it's so easy when you have a mattress like Helix. It's just so comfortable. It's really it's hard for me to get out of bed sometimes cuz it's so comfortable because I just want to stay in there.
That's the danger of a nap on a Helix mattress is that I'm
Oof.
like, okay, I'm a good like 20-minute napper. I'm like, I'm gonna do my 20 minutes and then I slip in and I'm like, I might spend the rest of the day here. And I'm like, could you bring my laptop? Perhaps I'll work from here. But given
Mhm.
that it is in the 80s in October in Texas, it is so important to have the Helix mattress because it makes sure I stay cool. There's no motion transfer from Paris. My Whoop device that tracks my sleep told me this morning I woke up and said, "You're very refreshed from your sleep last night." I'm like, "How
Nice.
could I not be? I sleep on a Helix."
Nice. I have the Sunset Lux. You have the Midnight Lux
Yes,
because we sleep differently. I'm a
exactly.
side sleeper. You kind of are all over the
I'm
place, but
omnivore.
all you got to, what'd you say?
I said I'm an omnivore sleeper.
But you can find out what your sleep style is and what mattress is best for you just by taking the short quiz on Helix's site. They'll tell you this is the one you should order. And then it's like, bam, I got it. Had my father in law do it, sat right there with him. Now he's got a Helix
Easy.
mattress.
And now you know. And the other thing too is that you're like, oh, it's something that I've recommended that I know is going to be incredible. Like you're
Hmm.
not going to go, you should get this mattress, but don't like call me after it comes like at school
Yeah.
because it's like I know I'm going to get people raving about it.
It's so good. You can't beat it. Go to helixsleep.com/creepy for 25% off site wide.
That's helixsleep.com/creepy for 25% off site wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/creepy. Sinisterhood will be right back.
Vanessa's fascination with the military began when she was a little girl. While other kids played house, she was captivated by the idea of wearing a uniform and serving her country. She told her family she wanted to join the army, a dream she held on to for years. Her mother, Gloria, strongly opposed the idea. She believed the army was,
For men.
and feared her daughter would face danger or discrimination. Gloria hoped Vanessa would outgrow the notion and perhaps pursue college instead. But Vanessa's mind was set. She viewed enlistment as both a path to independence and a way to make her parents proud. Just 2 days after graduating high school in June of 2018, at age 18, Vanessa enlisted in the U.S. Army, fulfilling the goal she had talked about since childhood.
I think it's probably one of those things too where it's like she has the paper. Is she
Hmm.
going to sign it? And then you're like, yes, mom, I signed it. I'm doing it. Like I made this promise, especially a determined person who says, I want to run a faster mile. Therefore, I'm just going to go out every day and run until I'm faster. I want to lift more. So I'm just going to lift every day until I
Yeah.
do more. So it's like, I'm going to work hard until now I can exactly the thing I can do right when I can do it. I'm going to do it.
I get her mom's hesitance. I
Hmm.
mean, I think that's not uncommon for any parent to feel when your kid is like, I want to go do something really, really dangerous for the next however many decades, perhaps. And
Right?
you're like, well, I want to support you. I also am really scared. And her fears, not unfounded.
Especially statistically, that's the I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure too that's the fear of any military parent that your one and only precious baby is going off to insert something, a huge task, whether it's driving in a tank or just straight up enlisting alone is
Yeah.
a scary prospect. So it's a sacrifice the whole family kind of makes.
Yeah. Being on a base
Hmm.
away for your first, I mean, essentially, instead of going away to college, you're going away to an army base,
Hmm.
which I did not spend a bunch of time on an army base, spent a bunch of time in college. But I
Different.
think the worlds are, they overlap in a lot of ways, but they are different in many as well.
Truly, my grandfather in the World War II was like he basically like moved pianos kind of like for Mickey Rooney in like the USO show. Like didn't really see like a ton of hard combat, but then the army called me in high school and was like, "Hi, we're an army recruiter. Like we want you to sign up. Like we guarantee you no matter what you want to study, we have it in the army." And I was like, "Theater." And they were like, "We do not have that." And I was like, "What about the USO show?" And they go, "It's not like that." Like, "No." And
Well,
I was
it
like,
could
"Okay,
be.
I guess you
First of
don't want
all,
me."
the
Never
army
mind.
missed out on a huge opportunity to explore the performing arts with
You
you.
you coulda had me. I was like, "Do you have a Good Morning Vietnam kind of a job?" And they were like, "We have to go now." It's like, "It's fine,
You're like,
it's
all
fine."
right, well, maybe more people would join if you did.
No, I can't get recruited by the army, I can't get recruited by people handing out drugs. I have no chance in high school.
Who was handing out drugs you were
Like,
trying to get
I saw all
recruited
the
by?
kids all the kids that did drugs, they'd never offer it to me because I looked like I was gonna narc on them and rat them out.
Oh,
Like,
well,
I wasn't bad enough
yeah.
for the bad kids or good enough for the army.
Sometimes you gotta ask for what you want, Heather,
I guess so.
you know? You
Okay, here I
can't wait
am.
for it to come to you. If
Here
you
I
see
am.
that baggie, you gotta just go up to somebody in 5th period and be like, "What's up?
Snatch
I'm
it.
I'm hardcore enough for that."
Like, she's the kid from Dare.
After basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Vanessa completed her Advanced Individual Training, or AIT, at Fort Lee, Virginia, where she trained as a 91F Small Arms Artillery Repairer, a weapons engineer responsible for maintaining and repairing firearms and artillery equipment. Her choice of specialty was rare for a young woman and reflected her fearless approach to challenges. Fellow trainees remembered her quiet intensity, her strong work ethic, and how she could lift more than many of her male peers. She often spoke about wanting to excel and someday be stationed overseas. Vanessa's mother later said,
She wanted to be someone important in the army. She wanted to make a difference.
upon completing training, Vanessa was assigned to Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas, one of the largest U.S. military installations in the world. She worked in the arms room of the 3rd Cavalry Regiment, maintaining and managing weapons systems. Fort Hood was often described as
A world of its own.
a sprawling community larger than many towns. To Vanessa, it represented opportunity and the chance to prove herself. But to many in the military, it was also a post notorious for deep systemic problems, something she reportedly had no idea about when she arrived. Unbeknownst to Vanessa, Fort Hood carried a dark legacy. Over the years, it had become associated with sexual harassment, violence, and leadership failures. In 2013, an Army sergeant assigned to Fort Hood's Sexual Harassment Assault Response and Prevention Program, or SHARP, was investigated for running a prostitution ring involving female soldiers. Between 2009 to 2014, the base had endured 2 mass shootings that left 17 dead and dozens injured. Additionally, between 2016 and 2020, dozens of soldiers died under non combat circumstances, including homicides, suicides, and accidents. Investigations later revealed that more soldiers from Fort Hood had died by homicide than in overseas combat during certain years.
That is such a jaw-dropping statistic.
Yeah.
More I'm sorry, more soldiers from Fort Hood died by homicide than in overseas combat during certain years. What is going on
So
at Fort Hood?
by a fellow colleague's hand,
Yes,
arguably,
in
you
some
know,
cases. Well,
instead
and
of
then
an adversary.
Truly, and like the 2009 shooting,
Oh, man.
definitely remember
Yeah.
that was it killed seven. I'm sorry, killed 13 people, wounded 32 others. It was Nadal Malik Hassan, who was later convicted of 13 counts of premeditated murder and 32 counts of attempted. He's was convicted, now is scheduled to sentenced to death, and the current Secretary of War just said that he is working to get an execution date. And then the other shooting was in 2014, and that gunman died by his self-inflicted gunshot
Mhm.
wound, but killed 3 and 14 injured. I mean, 2
Yeah.
mass shootings within 5 years on the same base.
That is wild statistically, not to mention the suicides,
Homicide, yeah.
the abuse, harassment. It was just I don't know how you know of stuff like that when you are up and coming in the army and you're just getting stationed places. Seems like someone should give you a heads up. Maybe somebody does, but it also is very hush hush. So
Yeah.
it might not be something you learn until you've been there a while and you're kind of in the thick of it.
Or you get the announcement, "Hey, you're going to Fort Hood." You go, "Let me search on the internet because this is
Mhm.
2020." She could Google it and go, "Oh shit!" And then it's like, "Well, that's where you're going."
Mhm.
You're a new recruit. You can't be like, "Actually, I don't really want to go there. It sounds like a bad place." They're like, "We don't care what you want. You just joined. You'll do what we say."
Yeah, you go where we say.
Especially to a place where the sexual harassment assault response program, the guy running it was sex trafficking. It sounds like
Yeah.
female soldiers. So,
Literally, the person put in charge of helping vulnerable women
mhm.
is exploiting them and instead using his power for evil.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is definitely a scary place to have been assigned for her.
Yeah. In 2020, Sergeant Elder Fernandez, who had reported sexual abuse, died by suicide near the post, further highlighting systemic negligence. The Army's independent review ultimately concluded that Fort Hood's leadership had created an environment.
Permissive of sexual harassment and assault.
These failures painted a grim picture of the place where Vanessa, full of ambition and trust in the Army, was trying to build her career. Vanessa's military occupational specialty, or MOS, required high precision, technical skill, and accountability. Vanessa took pride in her work. Colleagues later recalled her diligence in maintaining weapons to exact standards and her seriousness about doing things correctly. Despite being one of the few women in her unit, she stood out for her professionalism and work ethic. It is hard to be the only woman in a male dominated industry, period. Then you're kind of isolated on this base where all of these other nefarious things are going on, and the danger in that ramps up, as well as just feelings of isolation, loneliness. You don't have anyone to relate to.
Yeah, especially if you are in the highly technical area where there are not a lot of other female soldiers. So you're feeling like even more of a fish out of water than perhaps even in other areas on base. So
Mhm.
I am, you got to respect, though. Again, this is what I want to do. This is
Yeah.
it might be difficult and it might require a lot of precise technical abilities, but I can do it. And like to think about, I mean, repairing weapons, repairing a fucking huge machine gun. I mean, it
Dude.
requires a lot of knowledge and
Oh,
skill.
yeah. And skill, like patience, having a
Hmm.
cool head, steady
Hmm.
hands. At Fort Hood, Vanessa formed close friendships that helped her adjust to the demanding environment of military life. Two soldiers in particular became part of her small circle of trust. CJ Landy, known among peers for his sense of humor, helped Vanessa laugh during long shifts and stressful days in the arms room. Tay Hightower, a fellow outdoors enthusiast, bonded with Vanessa over their love of hiking and nature. They often spent time outside the base exploring nearby trails. These friendships offered her brief escapes from the pressure of work in a male dominated culture that could be isolating for young female soldiers.
Both of these guys were interviewed on the Netflix documentary that came out in 2022. And you can just tell, like, they were so young. Their little baby faces in the pictures from when they were all together. They almost do look like kids at summer camp. I mean,
Mhm.
granted, they are full fledged, fully trained soldiers. I don't want to take that away from them. But when you just look at the pictures of them on base together, you just like, it looks like, your buddy from the dorm.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and they are. They're
Yeah.
18. They're fresh
Yeah.
out of high school.
Yeah.
By early 2019, Vanessa's family began to sense that something was wrong. Her once energetic calls home had become shorter and less cheerful. She was losing weight, appeared exhausted, and, according to her mother, seemed emotionally drained. When pressed, Vanessa admitted that she was being sexually harassed by a sergeant, though she would not identify him. The harassment, according to her family, involved invasive comments and stalking behavior. She told her mother and sisters she feared retaliation if she made a formal report, a fear not unfounded given Fort Hood's documented failures in addressing harassment claims. Vanessa continued to push forward, working hard, staying fit, and talking with Juan about their future together. Her mother later said,
She didn't want to make trouble. She thought it would ruin her career. And she was right to worry
Yeah,
about that, because at the time a report came out in 2020 about 2019, and the rates of sexual harassment and sexual assault in the military at the time of that Vanessa was struggling with this are staggering. 1 in 16 women experienced some form of sexual assault in 2019. They said, I mean, 1 in 143 men were estimated to experience some sexual assault. 1 in 4 women were sexually harassed. 1 in 16 men were sexually harassed. So it's like high rates. 1 in 4 women. I mean, statistically, that is staggering.
yeah,
They
yeah.
did, yeah, and they said too, if you reported it, there was a likely drag on your performance review. You're considered, being insubordinate if
A
the person
troublemaker.
and if the person who is your direct superior is the one harassing you, that is to whom you are intended to
Yeah.
report the harassment.
It's like being at a job and, what are you going to tell HR? Your boss is the one harassing you when HR works for the boss?
And especially if you are under a literal separate code called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, a totally separate legal code that governs what's going on and that does not specifically criminalize sexual harassment. Sexual harassment was not a standalone offense at this time. So, and again, there's not even an HR. You have to report it
Yeah.
straight up, and the person straight up is harassing you. I think you're probably going to get an offense against you
Oh,
versus
yeah.
them. They're not gonna go, "Oh, yeah, well, I gotta go tell on myself. I've done it
Yeah.
again."
Oh, I
No,
was wrong. No,
no.
she was completely uh right that it would ruin her career.
Oh,
I
yeah. I
mean,
mean,
those fears were legit, and the people harassing her know that,
yeah.
or harassing anybody know that, and that's why they can get away with it.
The 2019 report said 64% of women who reported some type of harassment in the military experienced workplace retaliation, and 34% of them were discharged following a report of sexual assault. So it's like you might just straight up get kicked out. This
Yeah.
is your like whole dream.
Yeah.
And she was,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a rock in a hard place.
Yeah. Specialist Aaron Robinson, who would later become central to her case, was Vanessa's direct supervisor in the arms room. He had joined the Army in October of 2017, trained as a 12B combat engineer, and held the rank of specialist during the time they worked together. Colleagues described Robinson as quiet, but sometimes volatile, and Vanessa reportedly found him difficult to work with. In 2019, Vanessa began to express her emotional exhaustion through social media, particularly on Twitter. Her family later cited these posts, still visible on her old account and mentioned in the Netflix documentary, as evidence that she was struggling under the pressure of her environment. Her tweets paint a portrait of growing disillusionment and loneliness. On August 29th, 2019, she tweeted.
I feel empty.
Less than a month later, on October 18th, she shared.
Barely got here and I want to leave already.
In February and March of 2020, Vanessa made more cryptic tweets. February 7th of 2020 plainly stated,
If I stay or leave,
then April 9th said,
it'll come from whom you least expect it.
and on April 15th, 2020, Vanessa tweeted.
Some BS.
These are hard to read in hindsight. And, I feel like when anybody is going so public like that on Twitter,
Mhm.
it's beyond a cry for help. It's like the
Yeah.
ultimate cry for help because you're reaching strangers. She's already reached out to her family. She
Yeah.
knows she can't really do anything. She still could face retaliation from just tweeting this as well.
Right, because you wonder if it's like this is conduct unbecoming of a
Mhm.
officer or whatever, especially if the person who's doing it to you is the one that could, sanction you, get you in trouble. It's like that's a call out is often not even done at all, but to do it in a public way where her family reads this, her friends from back home read it and stuff. I mean, I think it is a vague way to kind of try to feel like you're not alone if you're literally in a framework that does not allow you to make a cry for help.
Yeah. Yeah, the and just it'll come from whom you least expect it is pretty telling.
And if I stay or leave, and it's like this is a person whose entire life was wanted to be exactly where she's at. You're like, I've achieved it. I'm about to start walking up the staircase to my future. And it's like, I got to turn around and go home because this is not what I thought.
Yeah, and I can't do anything about it. It really is. I stay, try to pursue my dream, and put up with this, not knowing where it might lead,
hmm
or I leave and my dream is over.
And I leave it all behind. And for a
Mhm.
person who is a marathon finisher, a runner,
Mhm.
a lifter, that's like a goal oriented person, I think just dropping out is not usually the route. You're like, okay, I can endure, I can
Yeah.
persevere.
Yeah, and you tell yourself like, well, in a month or so I could be transferred to some place, or
hmm
maybe, we'll be working in separate areas and I won't have to deal with it anymore.
Right. And you're like, surely the entire world won't just completely shut down due to the COVID-19 pandemic and I'll be trapped on base with these people. And it's like, well, we none of us could have expected that.
No. These messages suggest a steady erosion of morale over time. The April tweets in particular have drawn public and journalistic attention for their ominous tone. They indicate a young soldier wrestling with whether to endure or escape an increasingly toxic environment. Those closest to Vanessa later reflected that she felt trapped, devoted to her job and proud of her service, yet unsafe and unsupported in her own workplace. On April 22nd, 2020, the world was continuing its shutdown in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. As an essential worker, however, Vanessa was called to base. She made plans the night before to go hiking after work with her friend and fellow soldier, Tay Hightower. He texted Vanessa around 11:30 p.m. the prior evening, and she confirmed their plan to hike after she finished at work. Around 9 a.m. on the 22nd, Vanessa texted Tay about some impending rain and texted Juan that she was headed to work.
You just wake up as the average day, you are not allowed to leave base, without permission. The COVID rules were strict as far as who was present, but then on base, it was kind of like, you know, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, you're all quarantined together
Yeah,
essentially,
we're
so,
okay.
it's like everyone found their bubble of who they can
hmm
hang out with during that time, and sadly her bubble was predators.
Luckily, she had a couple of her friends that she can still
Yes.
hang out with. And
Yeah.
hiking about during COVID, during COVID, hiking's about one of the only things we could do.
Yeah, yeah. Rules were looser on base due to COVID. That morning, Vanessa was wearing a black t shirt, purple leggings, and Nike athletic shoes. As part of her role, she needed to confirm serial numbers for weapons and equipment, according to later court records. She arrived at one of the base's arms room to begin work at 10:03 a.m. While Vanessa worked in the first, Robinson opened a second arms room, located in a nearby building. At approximately 10:15 a.m., Vanessa went to the second arms room to validate a needed serial number. At 10:23 a.m., Vanessa's supervisor received a text of the machine gun serial number from Vanessa's phone. This was the last known contact anyone had with her. Tay messaged Vanessa again around lunch, saying the weather was clear for their hike. She didn't reply. Her fiance, Juan, had also texted her around the same time. She didn't reply to that one either, or a series of subsequent messages. None of what Juan sent was being shown on his phone as delivered either. When Vanessa's sister and mom tried reaching out, they also received unusual silence.
And that's something specific to this case, is that she was not a reclusive person. She was a highly, popular as far as texting her fiance, her friends, her family, like active on Twitter. Like
Outgoing.
it's, yes, even at work saying, "Hey, I'm fixing to go to work. I'll text you at lunch," like with a follow up time. So to have complete silence, and especially if I was the fiance and I'm like, it does not say delivered, because this is Apple iPhone in the year 2020. You
Mhm.
can tell if the recipient phone has registered the message, and it
Mhm.
wasn't even registering. And if I was the fiance, rightfully so, and as he did, I'd be panicking. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's like 2 hours, it's like, this is weird.
It's weird and it's already weird circumstances. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
it's in the middle of the pandemic, a lockdown, so there's heightened concerns on top of just the norm, too. Worried at her lack of reply, Tay and another of Vanessa's friends and fellow soldiers, CJ Landy, walked to the first arms room in the late afternoon. There, they found her wallet with her U.S. Army identification card, bank card, and car keys, with her barracks key attached. Another soldier later confirmed that all of her property was still in the arms room when he secured the arms room at the end of the day. Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't look good.
If I was going on a hike with you and I went to go to the last place you were working and your shit was just sitting there, I'd be like, "Oh, well, maybe you're fixing to come back. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you went somewhere." In my head, I'd probably be like, "Man, maybe you got in trouble and you like couldn't take
Mm,
your phone with you. So you had to go talk to somebody like a higher up or something, or, something I'm not aware, or you got
yeah.
sick, you fell and, twisted your ankle and but in my head, I'd be like, well, if you were sick or injured, you probably would tell me, "Hey, I'm not going to go hiking later. I'm in the
Mm-hmm.
infirmary for XYZ." So it's like you want to panic, but you're also like, we're on an army base.
Mm-hmm.
Surely she's not missing. Nothing happened to her. It's a fucking army base. They know where all of us are. And if they
Yeah.
don't, we get in trouble.
And they had all been in recent contact, for the most part with her. So it's a
Yeah,
short time span for something terrible to have gone wrong.
exactly.
According to Robinson's account, when Vanessa arrived, she began reading down the identifying numbers stamped on weapons and writing them down for accountability paperwork. Specifically, Robinson mentioned she was cataloging a large mounted 50 caliber machine gun. He told investigators later that Vanessa left the arms room and headed to the motor pool where vehicles are kept. However, the serial number paperwork Vanessa was supposedly collecting never made it to where it was supposed to go, which raised suspicion that she never actually completed that task.
Right away, his answer's like, she walked off. I don't know.
Yeah,
Weird stuff.
very
And they're like,
sus.
why did she walk to the motor pool? I don't know. They're like, was she leaving? Did she say she was leaving? Did she say she needed to look at a car, go to a car? It's like, that's just where she went.
All of it's sus from, the
The jump.
jump.
Yeah, yeah.
By that evening, Vanessa's family was worried. Her sister Myra reached out to a staff sergeant via phone and was told Vanessa hadn't been seen since around lunchtime. Myra pressed them to check any on base cameras, but was informed they had none. Frustrated with no answers from the military, Vanessa's sister and Juan drove from Houston to Fort Hood in Killeen, about 3 hours away, in order to search for her themselves.
I love Myra and the whole family, especially because they should not have to do this. But
Mm-mm.
she's like, when I first started talking to them, and they were like, well, and this was very common back then, that if a soldier wasn't around, they wouldn't say, well, we got to put in a missing persons report. They would classify them as a missing soldier, which is just treating them as administratively unaccounted for. And it doesn't trigger a search. It doesn't trigger an alert. It doesn't trigger like law enforcement putting out a bolo on a car or a physical description. Instead, in fact, the soldier is stripped of their pay, was at the time stripped of their pay and benefits
Yeah.
instead. So it's like, well, she ran off. Like it would be like you called 911 and it goes like, hey, these are the facts. And they go, sounds like a runaway to me.
Yeah.
Like that was their initial, no matter what the circumstances, pretty much they were like, well, we'll just classify them as that.
One wonders if that is similar to the Disney rule. You
What's the
know,
Disney rule?
The Disney rule is
Oh,
no
yes.
one is ever pronounced dead at Disney. So they can
True.
say truthfully, no one has ever been died at the park. Yet just last week, a woman had a fatal heart attack on the Haunted Mansion ride.
Haunted Mansion.
Oh, dude, the footage of just like kids standing there as the stretcher carries her out with one of those machines that pumps it for you. She was DOA, but they don't call it
Mm-mm.
till they get to the hospital. So you can still stay on the books. We've never had anyone die at the park.
Oh, okay.
Well, if instead of launching an investigation, a soldier is just like, I don't know, they went missing of their own accord, stripped them of everything, then you could also say, we've never had XYZ happen here.
Right? You'd be like, we don't have soldiers go missing. They just run off. And then
Yeah.
later on, we figure out that they did not run off on their own accord. But yeah, I think it was also just like poorly drafted. I mean, honestly, if you think about the logic of there are going to be soldiers that go missing. So the fact that the whole entire military, as late as 2020, did not have a comprehensive framework to deal with that is a crazy oversight, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Not to mention the whole sexual harassment stuff, which we'll talk about more in part two. But it was just like, does nobody check the rules that people are operating under?
What about no cameras on a
Yeah.
military base? That I can't even like believe that.
That's what I was like, did they lie to Myra? And I doubt it. I mean, unless it was, we don't have any cameras, we're willing to show you. Perhaps there are some cameras on base, and the statement, we don't have any cameras, is just like in the places where she was. But that would also be a huge question of, what do you mean you don't have cameras on our
Yeah.
military base? What about when the aliens come and they're flying drones over? At the very least,
Yeah.
you want to be able to see that. Not to mention, what if people are just stealing guns or something? Like,
Yeah.
this is a worst case scenario, a soldier going missing, but also like, I don't know, crimes. Like, wouldn't you want to have?
It seems like you would have cameras all over it. The other side of that, I wonder, is if we don't want cameras on
Yes,
a secure place in case our adversaries hack
hack it.
something.
That would be the only argument, I think, would be we can't secure it.
Yeah.
Which that's a bigger issue. Maybe work on
Yeah.
cybersecurity.
Yeah.
I got a lot of
Yeah.
if you guys would have let me in, I would have
Yeah.
been able to
See?
help. I'm just
Not only
kidding, I
would you
never
be
would.
laughing a lot more, but none of this shit would have been going on
No,
because you would have taken care of the cameras.
every bit of it. General McKinney. No, I don't think I was ever looking at.
But
No,
I agree. I would have been in that car driving down there myself too. Like, if nobody's
100%.
going to help me, then I'll just fucking show up and y'all can deal with me because I ain't going anywhere.
And I fucking love the ride or die family members. It was just like, I don't care what time it is. Like, they got there at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
and like, or like, whatever, we'll find a motel. We'll go stay somewhere. I'll sleep for 2 hours and wake up and literally at daybreak be like, bonk, 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 bonk.
Yeah.
At the big, they have this big fancy gate in the front that's like, Fort Hood, welcome, with all this quote on top. She did kick that motherfucker in.
Mm-hmm. The morning of April 23rd, Myra went to the base to try and get answers. She told Netflix that no one would tell her who Vanessa was last seen with, explaining.
Everything was very shady.
Myra called their mother Gloria to describe the delays. Gloria decided to drive to the base herself, telling interviewers.
These animals won't look for my child. I have to look for my daughter myself.
When she arrived in Colleen, however, Gloria had a bad feeling. To her, the whole town smelled like death.
I think that's a mother's intuition.
Dude, and also like, all right, well, Big Mama's coming into town because if y'all aren't going to tell me anything, and we've seen this so many times in cases where the family is just stonewalled, and
Mhm.
then they got to take up this responsibility on their own when their minds are reeling or they're grieving. And, there's so much happening. The onus should not be on them, especially when this is an army base of anyone
Yeah.
that should help you. Like, but she went to serve our country and with y'all. So you should be taking care of her and be happy to provide answers as to what might be going on.
No, truly, and especially when Gloria describes in the Netflix documentary, and as well as the interviews that John Quinones has done with the family, both in his podcast and in the 2020 coverage. I mean, you can tell, and it's not surprising to anyone, but Gloria is just heart was broken when that happened. When she gets the alert, hey, we can't get a hold of her. She was just like collapsed, so upset. And like you said, to then turn around and go, well, you're going to need to put a lot of effort in, by the way, mom and dad, that one of your children is missing. Oh, and also due to, I believe, immigration status, you're not allowed on the base. So your teen daughter is going to have to help with this. And again, that is the army protocol. I get it. It's one thing, but like, for fuck's sake, there is a missing
Yeah.
person. And to just kind of go, well, yeah, the sister can come on. We'll deal with that. Whatever. It's like, sometimes policies are important, but I would think that in a case like this, where it's like the family member of a loved one, we would be treated a little different.
Yeah, you make some accommodations, perhaps meeting, maybe they can't come on base, but you still meet with them right next to a place on base and update them at every turn as to what's going on, make them feel included.
Uh-uh.
None of
No, I
that.
mean, poor, and you're for the family's sake, they're gotta be told by the army. I mean, she's AWOL. Sounds like she
Yeah.
just ran off. And it's like, no, because her phone's not on. So we
Yeah.
would have talked to her. If she would have
Also,
run off, she would have run to us. Like, we are the
we're
people.
also aware that she is unhappy and has been sexually harassed, so none of this is adding up.
No, and also we've seen other soldiers from this exact base. Not only were they harassed, but then died in really horrible ways
Yeah.
that wasn't combat related. So I think that their reaction was completely rational
Yeah.
given all the
100%.
circumstances. Yeah.
With Vanessa missing for over 24 hours, her family pressured the Army's Criminal Investigation Division to open a missing persons case. The CID put out a press release asking for assistance in looking for Vanessa. Over the next week, investigators interviewed Robinson, the last person seen with her. He claimed he finished work on April 22nd and went home to the off post residence he shared with his girlfriend, Cecily Aguilar. After that, he stated he did not leave the rest of the night, except around 6:30 p.m. when he had to come on post to sign on to a government computer to enroll in training.
And that's in, a couple of days, weeks after she went missing. CID is in charge of all of this, which is the Army's investigatory division. And unlike police and state laws that have certain requirements for keeping victims' families updated, they did not have that at all for CID. So they didn't have to call and didn't really have to update. So then now you're
Mhm.
putting more onus on the family that now Myra's having to call every day. And of course, that's on the top of their mind anyway. But all that to say is you're further victimizing a family that has
Yeah.
already given the ultimate sacrifice of their family member.
Myra was shocked at the lack of professionalism from the investigators handling her sister's case. One sergeant asked if Myra would like to see Vanessa's room. Confused that it may be part of an investigation, Myra initially said no, until her curiosity got the best of her and she agreed. When they entered, she told the sergeant that Vanessa's keys, wallet, and cards were missing. The sergeant pulled them out of his pocket and showed Myra, who was horrified that key pieces of evidence were being mishandled. She had no idea at the time that the investigators on Vanessa's case were new to the job, with less than 3 years' experience amid staffing issues on base.
Also, even if you're there for one day, I think you should know that if there's a missing persons case, don't go fondling all of the last items that they were seen with in case the person that took them had also touched those things.
I've never been in any type of law enforcement, but I know enough to not put evidence in my pocket and then handle it with my bare hands.
Yeah, and then try to hand it to the surviving family member. Go, you want to look at this? We don't know what's going on here. Like,
And her
why is
room
it
should have been a crime scene for
for
sure.
real?
We
Block
don't
it
know what
off.
happened at this point.
No, for just the assumption of like, I don't know, let's go unlock it. I got the keys in my pocket. I've been carrying them around. I mean, when I heard that, my jaw dropped. And you, as the family member, are like, oh, they're not taking this seriously
Mm-mm.
whatsoever. Because if they were, that would be in an evidence bag sealed, and it's not,
And if they're letting me in and they have the keys, like who else has been in here?
for sure.
From the earliest days of Vanessa's disappearance, her family was visibly in the fight. Myra first took to Twitter for answers. She created an online movement to pull more attention to the case, gaining thousands of reshares and supportive videos from concerned community members. Vanessa's other sister, Lupe, spoke to news outlets, sharing Vanessa's background and story. Within a week of her disappearance, many of Vanessa's friends and family members began spending long hours protesting outside Fort Hood and advocating online, demanding answers.
To be as loved as this young woman,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there was just she had her own army of people that were every possible facet. They were trying to decide, where can I put my attention? You put your attention here, he'll put his attention over here, and we're all going to attack it from every side, and we are going to move the needle on this.
It's beyond frustrating that you're like, but you're the US Army. Like, y'all are who we call for help. And
Mhm.
you are the ones that won't help us at all. And a literal, like, locked gate is separating the two of you.
Mhm. And from what happened, what is hidden behind that big
Hmm.
gate, and a base that I know is not a clean one.
Yeah. Investigators with Sid began looking more at Robinson. They conducted an extraction of his phone, which showed Robinson called his girlfriend, Cecily Aguilar, repeatedly during the night of April 22nd and as late as 3:30 a.m. on the 23rd, with reciprocal calls throughout the day. Aguilar first told investigators she was with Robinson all night, then changed her story, saying she left their home for a long drive, then later said that she and Robinson drove to Belton together.
To look at the stars.
Well, this lady's story is all over the place from the jump.
Yeah, I mean, and so is Robinson. She was like, I just went home and I was home by myself alone, except one other time. And it's like, you don't think they can pull your data? It's 2020. They can pull your data, and they're going to literally be able to see not only where you went, but who was with you,
Mm-hmm.
and probably what even you talked about at some point. So the idea that they immediately did not extract his phone right away when he was the last one seen with her. Obviously, it takes a while, but I feel like he got to kind of just keep living his life for
Yeah.
like pretty good amount of time.
And deleting God knows what.
Who knows? Yeah, and it's like good luck deleting it. They'll still dig it out. But
Mm-hmm.
why is this? It seemed like it was moving very slow. And again, the family's not getting updates during this time.
Yeah.
Really,
By mid May, evidence had begun to accumulate. On May 18th, two witnesses told investigators they saw Robinson pulling a large, quote, tough box with wheels that appeared heavy from the same arms room where he worked, loading it into his vehicle and driving away on the day Vanessa disappeared. On May 19th, the digital trail grew more specific. Cell site data placed Robinson's phone around 1:59 a.m. on April 23rd in the vicinity of FM 436 and West Main Street in Belton, Texas, about 25 miles from base. Maps showed the phone pinged on or around a bridge that headed along the Leon River in a northward direction, remaining there for roughly 2 hours. Aguilar's phone data later showed she and Robinson were both near the Leon River late on April 23rd and also on April 26th.
by this time, CID had called in local law enforcement, was like, "Can you help us search?" So there was some search ongoing, but to be able to pinpoint it pretty exactly,
Yeah. Why are you 25
it's
miles from base together in the just like out in the,
at 2 a.m.
wilderness? Yeah.
At 2 a.m. The day that your boyfriend's colleague went missing, and that you also lied about several times, and you had to then tell us, well, we were looking at
Yeah.
stars.
At 2 in the
It's
morning,
giving,
we just decided to go look at stars.
I mean, it's literally what Brian Koberger said. I
Yeah.
mean, my phone was out there because I was just looking at stars. Like, I don't think you were.
Y'all fucking idiots. Nobody knows anybody. Nobody's out there at 2 a.m. looking at stars when you're with each other. There's all these other weird things going on. Like, just, you're never as smart as the people that are investigating you.
No, truly. And even still, like the fact that it took, I mean, multiple days for stuff like this to come out, that again, it's an army base. Sit everybody down. What did you see?
Well, if you're an army base that's known for covering things up and letting things go on, then it's maybe you don't care that much to do that.
Right? Or there's nobody there that knows what even to do, because they're
Yeah.
all new at their job, and they're like, we have, since I've been here, we haven't had another one of these situations, even though
Hmm.
we have them often.
Weeks passed with no answers for Vanessa's desperate family. The Army increased its reward and insisted it was working every angle. SID spokesman Chris Graves said in a statement to KWTX.
We know somebody out there has some very critical information. Do the right thing and come forward. Do it for Vanessa and do it for her family, friends, and fellow soldiers.
Lupe and Vanessa's family continued their fight. They formalized their digital advocacy in the Find Vanessa Guillén Instagram account and the related hashtag Find Vanessa Guillén. Hundreds of thousands of users joined the fight, posting and tagging those with power like politicians, journalists, and celebrities. In public statements, Lupe urged action for her sister, saying,
Knowing that this could happen to anyone, would you let your child, your son or daughter, sign a contract with the Army knowing that their life is at risk?
the Army's lackluster response to Vanessa's case had become a stark warning to all military families and any potential recruits.
You had the guy from CID being like, we're really trying. And really, it does appear, I won't say to minimize what happened to her, but as far as an open and shut case, insofar as she was seen with the person was doing suspicious things. Why is he loose?
Yeah,
Like, again, why
I
is he
don't get
loose?
that. When you're like, we're working all the angles, it seems like there's just one that you
Literally
should
one.
really be working and it's not being worked.
No, and I mean, I think the issue is that in the civilian justice system, the decision to bring charges lies with the prosecutor, right? Federal, state, local prosecutor. Well, in the Army, to determine whether to press charges, it's with the commanding officer. And so it's like, maybe does it have experience? Maybe it doesn't. There are judge advocates that are military lawyers that are in there. They're getting some advice. But the problem is, I think, is sometimes you have this person in charge who may be an incredible aviator. They may be an incredible infantry officer, a supply chain expert. But they're not a criminal investigator. And even if they are, they're not very seasoned at it. It
Yeah.
sounds like in this situation. So for her family, I don't blame them for reaching out. I would be screaming from every mountaintop, and I think they were very successful
Yeah.
in their digital campaign, because it was like, there literally nothing is going to happen unless we scream, look what they're doing to our soldiers. You cannot, on the one hand, have a government that goes, we love our soldiers, we love our service members. If, in fact, a crime happens to them, fuck them. But we love our service members. And it's like, wait, what? No, what'd you say right in the middle, though?
Mhm.
So I think this campaign was very successful in
Yeah.
saying, like, you signed him up to die for your country. You didn't sign him up to be killed by a fellow soldier because they complained about sexual harassment.
Amen. Around mid June, the family sought out the help of an attorney familiar with the military, Natalie Quam. She connected them with Texas EquiSearch, an independent missing persons search group, to help find Vanessa. Despite military pushback, the group jumped in to help. Amid mounting media pressure, an official from Fort Hood spoke out on social media asking for the public's help. Vanessa's sister reposted the video with a simple question.
2 months later.
And to remind everyone, like, they're footing the bill for this. Unless somebody's doing it pro bono, unless somebody's
Mm-hmm.
volunteering their work, like,
Not
the military isn't paying for this stuff.
No, and luckily, Natalie Quam did take the case pro bono. I believe EquiSearch is nonprofit, but it's still significant amounts of resources now that are having to be expended. Not to mention to say we've got an independent expert search group that's willing to come in and do this, by the way, for free, and to have the military go, we don't know about that. Who is
Mm-hmm.
this? I don't know if we want help. It's like, well, you're not fucking doing anything.
Yeah.
I don't blame them for finding Natalie though, because it is an entire different justice
Oh,
system.
yeah. Yeah. You have to lawyer up 100%. The family then decided to make public specific allegations of sexual harassment that Vanessa had shared. Before she went missing, Vanessa told her mother and friends that a sergeant had walked in on her while she was showering and that another subordinate verbally assaulted her in Spanish. Quam told ABC7 that Vanessa avoided reporting it formally out of fear of retaliation. On June 18th, the 3rd Cavalry Regiment commander, Colonel Ralph Overland, announced to the media,
I opened an investigation concerning the information provided by the Guillen family that Private First Class Vanessa Guillen was harassed prior to her disappearance.
adding,
I take allegations of sexual harassment very seriously.
Thousands of service members began sharing their own experiences of harassment and assault in the military using the hashtag I am Vanessa Guillén. The hashtag went viral across the country and across the world.
And that was a significant movement because I think it's 1 in 3 sexual assault victims will report it to an authority in the military. And that means there's 60%, 66% that do not, but that I think a lot of them felt empowered.
Yeah, and we know that 1 in 4 women are sexually harassed in the military.
Hmm.
So combine that with that other statistic, and like it's happening all the time. It's rarely reported. I mean, we see why,
Hmm.
you're fired or transferred or perhaps
Worse.
something worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Weeks had turned into months, still with no sign of Vanessa. By June 23rd, authorities said that more than 300 interviews had been conducted, and they spent more than 10,000 hours investigating her disappearance. But she was still missing. Protesters marched in Houston and other cities, holding signs that read Justice for Vanessa, waving U.S. and Mexican flags side by side. The Texas Tribune described how demonstrators in San Antonio, Austin, and El Paso lit candles and carried signs demanding accountability.
I think the hashtag helped even bring more awareness to it. And when you start saying it has now been 2 months and this woman was on a military base, the government starts to look, if it already had not, looked extremely incompetent.
Oh,
Like the
yes.
handling of this was embarrassing. It's completely traumatic on the family. But as far as being like, we're the most funded military in the world, and it's like, where's all the money going?
Yeah. You're like, y'all are the people that are going out and fighting for our freedom, yet you can't even find one of your own that's been missing for 2 months?
Exactly, and you can't even do something whenever somebody that's given up their literal life for you says, "I don't wanna be walked in on while I'm showering or be
Yeah.
spoken to or be stalked," and to just go like, "Well, let's just kinda get rid of it."
Yeah. Fort Hood had drawn previous criticism before Vanessa's case from the family of Private Gregory Morales, who went missing in August of 2019. For months, Army officials treated him as absent without leave, or AWOL, and offered little information to his family. On June 23rd, human remains were found near the Leon Bridge. The Guillen family braced themselves for the worst, but the remains were identified as belonging to Gregory Morales. The Army only restored his honor and benefits after his family pushed back against his AWOL classification. When it was announced the remains weren't Vanessa, Myra posted a tweet.
Thank God it's not my sister. This guy's poor family not
Oh,
only
man.
lost him, but then to have him stripped of his honor in his death, and the fact that rather than truly investigating his death, they just marked him AWOL. And
Yeah.
not every family has the resources, and not that the Guillen family had a ton of resources, but has the time, effort, ability to get down there to be marching on the gates. So the fact that this young man was only found after another woman had to die.
Yeah. About a week later, on June 30th, just after 1 p.m., a civilian crew working a fence line near the same river contacted police. They found what appeared to be another set of partial human remains. Authorities sealed off the site and called in a forensic anthropologist to identify who had been found. There, they found a burn site with disturbed earth. The burned remains appeared to be amongst a plastic tote or tough box, along with soil that was noticeably softer and more damp than adjacent ground, with an odor of decomposition. Tim Miller, founder of Texas EquiSearch, later said this burial site was among the most carefully concealed he'd seen. Vanessa's sister, Myra, explained the agony of waiting while somehow also already knowing the truth, telling ABC.
I got a call from CID on June 30th. They just told me we did find the partial human remains. And this time they didn't tell me it's not her.
So, what do we think?
Oh, it's that. I think for her family, especially her mom, who when she rolled into the town said it smelled like death and had that feeling. I think a parent, I can't speak to it as a parent, but you have a connection with your kid. So it was an inevitable ending. But I think no matter what, you're going to, until you get that call, you always are going to keep hope and say, like,
Yeah.
we're going to do everything we can find you. And you're hoping that it's find her alive. But I think once you find the prior remains, you've probably steeled yourself and been like, okay, but probably the next one.
Yeah, I mean, just a week later, you've gotten this news that, like, and you're like, "Thank God it's not her," and maybe it does give you a little hope, but when you get another call just a week later that another set of remains have been found, which that in and of itself is wild,
Yes.
you've gotta you got that gut feeling that this isn't gonna turn out well.
No, and you kind of know that given the response on the hashtag that your sister's situation was not a one-off, to think that that many other women, I mean, into the hundreds of thousands of responses and men too, but I mean, were subjected to treatment, suffered in silence for years, some of them decades, and you kind of know at this point, we don't know the motive or who did it or why, but I would say in my gut, I would be thinking, oh my God, she must have made this report and someone wanted to take her out for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's man, and they've been fighting for so long, just
Mhm.
that constant knot in your stomach, inability to ever feel joy,
Mhm.
go about just your day like it's a normal day.
Mhm.
Is there relief in getting the call that she's been located? I don't know. I've
Yeah.
I can I know that there's heartache in it.
Oh, certainly. And it's, a different kind of ache, I'm sure, the ache of finality, but also the resolute of,
Yeah.
and no one's been arrested yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the person who, like, 2 days after my sister was last seen with them, people said they saw him dragging the exact box that you just found. And yet
Yes.
he hasn't even been touched. We found her body in what this literal expert at finding people said was the most well concealed. We literally found that before an arrest was even made.
A
How?
civilian crew, in fact.
Yeah.
So it's not even the army that found it.
No. No. It was literally they stumbled upon it,
Mhm.
sort of. But I'm like, it's why did we need her remains when like to make an arrest at
No,
all?
yeah, agreed.
In my
I
opinion, at least. But I think they could have easily arrested him on probable cause. You're the last one seen with her, the phone pinging, all that shit. Like, no, but that's not what happened. He was still free as of the time that Myra and the Guillen family received this phone call. And
yeah,
were
as
we in
was
this?
Cecily.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, it's so infuriating, just this whole case is people always ask, like, what are ones that stick with you? This one will stick with me because this woman just wanted to serve her country and live out her childhood dream. And almost immediately upon her arriving at this base, she starts being harassed and
Hmm.
abused. And then the worst thing that could possibly happen happens to her.
No, exactly. And then to be treated with such lack of respect
Yeah.
in the wake of her disappearance. And of course, we will talk in part two, the mea culpa that the military tries to make, but it doesn't, I think, ever erase the botch investigation that happened. And it just evidences such a lack of respect
Hmm.
for literally people who sign on the dotted line to give their lives to keep
Yeah,
all of us free.
for
They
sure.
think, and then what in fact happens is that they give their life and their life is taken from them by virtue of a nasty system that was in desperate need of reform.
It also makes me wonder, well, how many other things are going bad that y'all are just botching the investigation or haven't been reported or you're turning a blind eye to? This one, she had a family that was tenacious and was not going to let her name be forgotten and took to the web and protests, and everyone came out. Luckily, she had that family and support system. No shade to anyone that doesn't. But for those that might not have that, or they don't have the resources like that, who are they? Where are their names? Where are they? Like, how many things have gone on that the public not only doesn't know about, but the family doesn't know?
Yeah, even the family and the lack of dignity in having to scrape and fight for
Mhm.
something that you're quite frankly owed. I think she was owed it
Yeah.
the whole time.
Oh, for
But you're
sure.
right. It's just like we say with Ryan Ferguson. What if he didn't have that dad?
Yeah.
He'd still be in jail. A lot of folks who we hear the Ellen Greenberg, which by the way, a short
Oh my
announcement here,
fucking god, dude.
the crooks, whoever's in charge of the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's office, have reconfirmed, they're calling it, in my opinion, incorrect ruling and determination that her death was a suicide. So I think at the very least it's undetermined, but it was a bizarre, bizarre statement from the medical examiner that went a
Yeah.
little above and beyond
It's I'm sure we'll do a
a full,
update on her
yeah.
whole case soon, but
But in
I
the
was
yeah,
legitimately just down and out. And if I feel that way, her poor parents, because I think everyone thought, okay, it's taken 12 years to get to this
14,
point.
yeah. Hmm.
We're probably going to get at least undetermined, or they wouldn't be doing all this.
Hmm.
I Shock does not begin to describe when they were like, "No, it's a suicide." Watch the docuseries, everyone.
Hmm.
Heads up, graphic crime scene photos.
Hmm.
That, in my opinion, just seal the deal that there's no way in hell she could have done this to herself.
Oh, that crime scene was staged, and you're not the only one who thinks that. The Greenbergs, one of the experts that they have consulted, agrees with that as well. But this Josh and Sandy Greenberg, like the Guillen family, like Mr. Ferguson, is just these parents who have more strength in them than entire institutions that they have to go up
Yeah.
against. And just sorry not to take the spotlight off of Vanessa here, but I think the Greenbergs are very relevant to this case because it is very similar, where you have a woman whose life was taken and a larger machination over her that seems to indicate nothing's going to be done about this. Sorry, family, it's time for you to move on.
Yeah.
And both of these women were blessed with families that said, no, we will not.
Yeah. It's nauseating, infuriating, all the things when the systems that we think are there to protect us are the ones that not only prevent us from being protected, but then cover up what really happened and
Yep.
to protect their own. The thing was, Vanessa was one of their own, and
Yeah.
she wasn't getting protected at all. And
Mm-mm.
the hundreds of thousands of women and men that have been harassed and abused on military bases, and it still goes on. It's
Military.
just, it's sickening that these are the people that are putting their lives on the line,
Hmm.
and they sign up, like you said, knowing there's a good chance I lose my life in
Yeah.
line of duty. They don't sign up thinking, or a fellow colleague murders me because
Insert here.
dot dot dot.
Yeah. I mean, I know for a fact we have a lot of military current service members, veterans,
Yep,
family members of veterans who listen. First of all, thank you for everything that you do for us.
absolutely.
Like I said, I couldn't hack it. They wouldn't let me in.
No, they
So
didn't even
thank
call
you.
me.
I didn't even call. But I would say if you have an experience, I want to hear about it. Send
Yeah,
it
for
into Freaky Friday.
sure.
Go to sinisterhood.com/Freaky Friday. Any type of experience you had in the military, whether you saw lights in the sky, we want to know about that. But seriously, if you had a I am Vanessa Guillen story, I'd be happy
Yeah,
for us to share it. I'd be sad to hear about it, but in so far as it could help somebody else that's listening, as all Freaky Friday stories do,
yeah.
uh, I'd be happy for us to share those.
Anything to bring light to a systemic, horrific problem, I'm all for. So anyone that's
Same.
willing to share their stories, and of course, we can always share it anonymously too.
For sure. My children, write us in.
Yes, but the more stories that are shared that bring light on such a topic, and also spread information to people
Yeah.
that, like, this isn't a one-off. This actually happens so much more often than anybody wants to believe, but
Mhm.
it's the truth.
No, truly. And we'll talk in part 2 about law changes and perhaps changing back question mark. So we'll keep an eye on that as well.
This episode of Sinisterhood is made possible with the help of our amazing patrons.
If you're interested in supporting the show, consider joining our Patreon. You'll get access to ad-free regular episodes, weekly bonus content, you're able to vote on episode topics, join our monthly live streams, and more.
Keep it creepy.
Mwahaha.